terrific feedback all the time, particularly like high school, college level. I mean, I just spoke at my high school a couple of days ago, and first of all, it was mandatory attendance, grades 9 through 12. Utterly terrifying. I sweated like Nixon through the whole thing, because I by far have the lowest GPA of anybody ever invited back to speak at the school. And so it was like all my teachers are still there, and it's like, oh, this motherfucker. And so I was just like, oh my God, this is so awful. But it was a horrific, soul-wrenching experience to actually have to be there. But the good part was that afterwards, yeah, like a bunch of students came up to me and they're like, yeah, we've been reading your stuff and we're starting to blog and do our own thing, and we've got this critical sports blog here, and it's like little things like by doing the work, you give more mainstream people opportunities to talk about issues that they wouldn't otherwise talk about. Like Scoop Jackson on ESPN, people know him, he interviewed me about the film, and with it, had the trailer embedded on the ESPN's website. Now that's pretty cool, because that means a lot of people would then get to see it. And Scoop has fantastic politics. I mean, he grew up as a baby, like his parents were with Fred Hampton in Chicago, and he can't necessarily write that, but he can write about the weirdo guy who's doing the film, and that allows him to then do it. So I see a lot of it, definitely, and I don't think it's all me either. I really think it's the world, and how the world's been changing since I started doing this, and it's gratifying to see, though, every time it opens up a little bit, because, oh my God, we need more of this. We need more critical sports writing. We need a bigger community of people who are writing about this stuff. We need it to become like the mainstream. That in sports writing, you're writing critically about what's happening. None of this false equivalency about, well, the owners say this, but this has been driving me nuts with the NFL lockout thing. First of all, they call it a strike when it's a lockout. And the second thing is the owners tore up the collective bargaining agreement with 2 years left on it. That should be in the first sentence of every article about that this is happening because of them. And you don't see that. So like, it would be good if that was the norm, that people are looking at this stuff critically and questioning power. And we're a long way from there, but I feel like we've made some serious, serious inroads over the last several years. Yes, ma'am? You give your hand up in purple shirt? You did not. Yes, ma'am? Yes, ma'am? Yep.
I just had a thought that the players have the most power of anyone, because what are they going to do? Team owners and stuff aren't going to drop them. You know, there are how many of them, if they all spoke out, you know, all the best players may be gone. And, you know, unless they are just so afraid, you know, the culture has made them so afraid. But the younger people, like you were talking about college age now, they're not growing up with that so much. They're more diverse, maybe. And you know what I mean? Instead of so afraid and only looking at the money.
Well, it's hard. I mean, college athletes are in a particular bind because their scholarships are renewed annually. And I mean, you could be a 4.0 grade point average running for class president at UT and be the quarterback, and if Mac Brown retires and someone else comes in and you're not their quarterback, you're gone. You're gone. And so there's, I mean, let alone the fact about, you know, college players not getting paid and being in that position, they also have no organization, no way to organize themselves, and no way to really challenge what is happening to them. Now, on the flip side of that, when it comes to issues that, like there are generationally, particularly the issue of LGBT rights, that just generationally, people coming up right now are much more likely to accept and be vocal about it. And I really do think we're going to see an active male gay athlete in the near future. I think that's a near future reality. It might happen because somebody has a cell phone camera at the club, but hey, that's how Billie Jean did not come out willingly either. I mean, sometimes that is how it happens, but I do think it is going to happen, and it'll be less of a big deal than if it had happened 10 years ago. But it's like, it's hard to look at college athletes as somehow being the vanguard of this process. I mean, I think that they're in a lot of ways the worst possible position, unfortunately. Just going across here. Yes, sir.
So the biggest issue The biggest issue nowadays has to be the wars, and they've been going on for damn near a decade now. I just don't recall ever reading or hearing much anti-war statements from anybody much in professional sports. And I'm wondering if you have any opinion as to why after 10 years none of them are wised up and spoken out. The second part of the question is, going back to Vietnam War days, I don't recall too many athletes other than Muhammad Ali speaking out against the war. And they were, black athletes in particular, were much more affected by the Vietnam War than black athletes are now.
Well, I mean, let's start with today. I mean, there's actually, I could go through a really good laundry list of athletes who've said things about the war. I mean, the example that's particularly powerful is Eton Thomas, who we mentioned before, who actually goes to anti-war rallies and reads anti-war poetry at these rallies. But you could, like, basketball players, Steve Nash, Nick Van Exel, Josh Howard, football players like Adelius Thomas spoke out against the war. Scott Fujita, who's featured in the film, who's you might have seen as a white guy. His last name is Japanese, Fujita. That's because he was adopted by a Japanese family that was in an internment camp, and his father was actually born in an internment camp. So he takes these issues very seriously, like civil liberties and Islamophobia. Ultimate fighters like Jeff Monson comes out to give peace a chance and hands out war Rage Against the Machine, and hands out anti-war pamphlets to people on his way to the ring. He also has this back with a tattoo of like all the little fish, you know, that eating the big fish, and it says organize. It helps that he has a 72-inch back, so you can do a lot of very fun things with that. But even like in the world of NASCAR, which is crazy conservative, I remember Fox News interviewed Dale Earnhardt Jr. and said like, so hey Dale, what are you going to do after the big race? This is about 7 years ago. And Dale, no, it was about 6 years ago, sorry. And Dale said, Earnhardt said, well, we're going to take the whole crew, we're going to go back to my place, and we're going to watch Fahrenheit 9/11. And the Fox News guy looked like he was going to crap his pants. Like, are you sure you didn't mean Die Hard? And then Dale Earnhardt Jr. said on Fox, he said, I think it's a movie that everybody has an obligation to see. And these are just the people I'm pulling off the top of my head here. And I guess the point of it, more than anything, Donald Foyle, another one, like the point of it more than anything is Carlos Delgado, of course, not coming out for the second national anthem. When they did Major League Baseball, they were playing God Bless America during the 7th inning stretch. And Delgado had made it a mission in his life to stop the U.S. Navy from bombing Vieques, a successful mission. And he went public with it when he was playing for the Blue Jays with the Toronto Globe and Mail. And one of the good things about playing in Toronto was that the media actually did a real interview with him and talked to him, which I don't know would have happened here in the States. And I know it wouldn't have happened here in the States. And he spoke at great length about how I've seen what these bombs do in Vieques. The thought of them landing in the Middle East terrifies me, and I'm not going to support this war. It's a stupid war, as he called it. And so all of these things happened. And so then it's like we have to ask the question, why isn't it just, and I didn't mention Tony Smith, Division III basketball player in Manhattanville, turned her back at the start on the flag at the start of the war. But it's like, so if all these things happen, why isn't it just common currency among us to say, all these athletes, like, why isn't the question, all these athletes have come out against the war. Do you feel like it's helped? Or all these athletes have come out against the war. Why isn't it doing more to wake people up? And you see, this is, so then it's like, we have to ask the question about why isn't this common currency? Why isn't this just knowledge that we all have? Why don't all sports fans know about the several dozen people who've risked their incredible privilege of being a pro athlete to speak out about these wars? And I think what it comes down to more than anything is like the sports media themselves are, as we say in the film, they're the keepers of normality. And you're not supposed to have sports and politics mix. And they're the gatekeepers of this. So they prevent this stuff from being a bigger story. It becomes like this big wall of silence that they come up against. So instead of huge stories about why this athlete might be against a war or not against a war, bam, you just get it smacked down. And you hear nothing from it.